Tunisia's incumbent president Kais Saied has secured a second 5-year term with a landslide victory despite the election recording one of the lowest turnouts in the country's history.
역대 최저 수준의 투표율을 보인 튀니지 대선에서 카이스 사이에드 현 대통령이 압승을 해 5년 임기 연임에 성공했습니다. Alright, so tell us more about this.
Right, so this is according to Tunisia's Independent High Authority for Elections, or ISIE. It said that Saied had won 90.7% of the vote in Sunday's election on a turnout of 27.7%. Also on the ballot was ex-lawmaker Zuhair Magzaoui, who was Said's ally turned foe. And they said that the turnout was higher than the 11% of the country's 9 million eligible voters who had turned out for December's local elections, but still historically low. And observers said that it offered an insight into the discontent among many Tunisians as the country slides into authoritarian rule. So more about Saied. He came into power in 2019 in the second election after the Arab Spring protests that led to the ousting of former strongman Ben Ali, who had been in power for more than 2 decades. Since then, the incumbent president has suspended parliament, and he backed a referendum that granted him sweeping powers 2 years ago. So multiple dissidents and opposing figures include former member of parliament, Saied Ferjani, who has been detained and remain in captivity with restricted access to family members and legal representation.
Exactly. The criticism that Kais Saied is getting right now is that Tunisia is going back to being an autocratic government.
Yeah, it's kind of going back to the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. 다시 이제 독재 시대로 돌아가는 거 아니냐 이런 비판을 받고 있어요. 현 대통령인 사이에드 대통령이 재선에 성공을 일단 했다는 소식이고요. 전체 투표율 같은 경우에는 28%가 채 안 됐습니다. 10명 중 3명도 투표를 안 한 거죠. 그런데 득표율은 90%가 넘었습니다. 그래서 압승이기는 합니다. 자, 그러면 우리 이제 이 표현 좀 볼게요. 현 대통령, present president 이렇게 하지 않고 incumbent president.
Yeah, I think we use the word current president as well.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But incumbent is what we usually say. So if someone is incumbent, it doesn't always have to be the president, but it refers to an official, or it could be a regime as well that currently holds office.
Exactly. Incumbent. It's one word, incumbent, and it means this person is holding office right now. 지금 현직 재임 중인 이런 뜻이에요. 그래서 현직 대통령, the incumbent president 이렇게 표현을 하고요. And the turnout was very low.
Right. So turnout, we're speaking of voter turnout here. So it's the number of people attending or taking part in an event. In this case, it would be the number of people voting in an election.
그렇죠. 여기서 말하는 turnout는 투표율이 될 텐데 turnout라는 것 자체는 사람들이 나타났다 이런 뜻이에요. voter turnout 이렇게 표현을 하는 게 이제 좀 더 엄밀히 따졌을 때 투표율인데 그 voter라는 단어를 맥락에 따라서 누구나 알 수 있으면 생략할 수 있습니다. 그래서 여기서 this election recorded one of the lowest turnouts in the country's history라고 했어요. 투니시아의 대선 투표 중 이렇게까지 낮은 투표율이 기록이 된 적이 없다고 합니다. 자, 그러면 다시 한번 읽어볼게요. Tunisia's incumbent president, Kais Saied, has secured a second 5-year term with a landslide victory, despite the election recording one of the lowest turnouts in the country's history. Let's move on to the next headline.
An analysis from the world's longest-lived populations reveals that the rapid improvements in life expectancy achieved in the 20th century have slowed dramatically in the past 3 decades.
세계에서 기대수명이 가장 높은 인구를 대상으로 실시한 연구 결과 20세기 들어 가팔랐던 기대수명 증가 추세가 지난 30년 새 뚜렷하게 둔화한 것으로 나타났습니다. Right, so let's talk about how long people are going to live and this research.
Right. So, it seems like we've been making leaps and strides in terms of people increasing their life expectancy. But maybe we've reached a plateau, is what scientists are basically saying. So the study, it delved into national statistics from the U.S. and 9 regions with the highest life expectancies, focusing on 1990 to 2019, and that's before COVID struck. So we can't blame everything on COVID.
Right.
So the data comes from Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Australia, France, Italy, Switzerland, Sweden, and Spain. And it showed that rises in life expectancy had slowed dramatically. So according to the study, children born recently in regions with the oldest people are far from likely to become centenarians, which means they will live to be 100. And at best, these researchers predict 15% of females and 5% of males in the oldest living areas will reach 100 this century. So we've seen a lot of advancements in public health and medicine, which kind of sparked this longevity revolution in the 20th century. So in the previous 2,000 years, the life expectancy crept up on average 1 year every century or two. But in the 20th century, the average life expectancy, it rocketed with people gaining an extra 3 years every decade. But the period of radical life extension prompted some researchers to extrapolate the trend and suggest more people born after 2000 would survive to be 100 years old. But they're saying that after this prospect, it's being challenged in 1990 by a lot of researchers who are arguing that it's not going to go up to 100, but it's there's sort of a biological ceiling at about 85.
Yeah, because we've been using the expression 백세 시대 for a long time now.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like everyone's going to live until the age of 100. But I guess when you go into the specifics and look at research like this, that's not really the case.
No.
Although, some people will live to be 100 or
Maybe more people than in the past.
Exactly. 과거에 비해서는 아무래도 이제 확실히 100세까지 살 확률이 높아지긴 했지만 우리가 이제 100세 시대 해가지고 그러면 과연 몇 퍼센트 사람이 몇 세까지 진짜 산다는 것이냐라는 것을 좀 구체적으로 얘기하는 게 이 연구 결과네요. 그래서 이제 보면은 2010년 이후에는 기대수명이 조금 둔화했다고 합니다. 그 전에까지는 엄청 많이 올라가지고 기대수명이 이제 점점 높아져서 뭐 90세까지 산다, 100세까지 산다 이런 얘기들이 쭉 나오다가 최근 몇 년 사이에 태어난 아이 같은 경우에는 100세까지 살 확률이 남녀가 차이가 있는데요. 여성은 5% 정도, 남성은 2% 정도라고 합니다. 최근 몇 년 사이에 태어난 아이는 그렇고 자, 2019년에 태어난 아이 같은 경우에는 100세까지 살 확률이 여성은 13%, 남성은 4% 정도라고.
Well, I mean, we do know that women tend to have a longer life expectancy than men. Yeah.
그래서 이제 뭐 몇 년도에 태어났느냐에 따라서 조금씩은 요 데이터가 다르긴 하지만 평균적으로는요. 이제 출생을 언제 했느냐에 따라서 100세까지 살 확률이 여성 같은 경우는 한 15%까지 내다볼 수 있을 것 같고 남성은 5% 정도 이렇게 보인다고 합니다.
So even though we hear, we're going to live to 100, we're going to live to 100, these researchers are saying that if you are planning for retirement, it's probably not a good idea to assume that you're going to make it to 100. That means you're going to be in that 15%, if you're a woman, and 5% if you're a man. So you might want to work for maybe 10 years or longer than you'd think, and then enjoy that last phase of your life. So you don't necessarily want to spend it working to save for that time you might not get to experience.
Exactly. Well, this research was based on the analysis of 8 countries, 8 of the longest lived populations. You mentioned them earlier on. Japan, Korea, Australia, France, Italy, Switzerland, Sweden, and Spain. 그래서 이제 기대 수명이 좀 긴 나라들을 대상으로 연구를 한 겁니다.
Yeah.
Longest lived is our first expression.
Right, longest lived. So, in comparison to other countries, these people or these countries are the longest lived countries. So it means that you are living or lasting for a long time or the longest time.
Exactly. 자, longest lived니까 뭐 가장 오래 사는 최장수의 이런 의미가 될 거고요. Dramatically.
Dramatically, it means suddenly or obviously.
아주 극적으로라는 뜻이 되겠습니다. 자, 참고로 이제 기대수명 영어로는 life expectancy. Well, here's the headline again. An analysis from the world's longest-lived populations reveals that the rapid improvements in life expectancy achieved in the 20th century have slowed dramatically in the past 3 decades. Let's move on to the next headline.
An analysis from the world's, that was the former headline. Rome's iconic Trevi Fountain will undergo a 2-month cleanup during which some visitors will have the rare opportunity to visit the Baroque masterpiece up close from a suspended walkway, according to local authorities.
로마의 대표적인 명소 트레비 분수가 2달간의 청소 작업에 들어감에 따라 이 시기 일부 방문객들은 주변의 간이 통로를 이용해 전례 없이 가까이에서 분수대의 걸작 조각품을 감상할 수 있게 될 것이라고 당국이 전했습니다. 네, 그러니까 한마디로 이 트레비 분수가 일단은 폐쇄가 돼요.
Yeah.
연말까지 평소처럼 볼 수는 없다. So tell us more.
Yeah, so it's kind of good news and bad news at the same time. So if you are visiting Rome's Trevi Fountain in the next few months, you are likely to have a somewhat disappointing view of the site, which is currently undergoing renovations. So in the coming months, visitors will only be able to approach, it's one of the most beloved, I think, attractions of Rome.
Yep.
So they're going to be able to only see it through this walkway that was built while restoration is underway. You can also visit the piazza in front of the fountain, but barriers will be blocking access to the water. And one of the popular things that a lot of people do is throw the coins.
Yeah.
Right. But I don't think you'll be able to do that because the whole lower area of the water basin has been cordoned off. However, the good side is that this temporary walkway over the fountain will give visitors a chance to see the Trevi Fountain up close from an unusual perspective in small groups. They say that it should be ready in about a month. Okay. And while restoration or the renovation work at Trevi Fountain is to be finished by the year's end, they say that the restrictions may remain in place during 2025 as the city marks a jubilee. And this is why a lot of these restorations are going on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like you said, it's going to be closed off to the public for the most part of the next couple of months. So if you're planning on going to Rome,
yeah.
Is it Rome? Yes. Then make sure that you have everything.
Keep that in mind.
Checked.
Yeah.
Yes. 로마의 유명한 트레비 분수가 이제 2달 동안 문을 닫습니다. 이 청소 작업 때문에 공사로 인해서 그러니까 연말까지 접근하는 거는 좀 어렵지만 아예 안 되는 건 아니에요. 접근이 제한이 되는데 자, 이 공사를 하면서 트레비 분수가 왜 여러분 조각상 같은 게 있고 그 다음에 앞에 쭉 그 분수 물이 있기 때문에 조각상을 콱해서 볼 수는 없잖아요. 그런데 이번에 공사하면서 위에다가 간이 통로를 만들어가지고 밑에는 다 막아놨지만 그 조각상을 좀 더 가까이에서 볼 수 있는 드문 기회는 생긴다고 합니다.
Yep.
네. 자, 첫 번째 표현 볼게요. This is going to undergo some sort of operation.
Right. So when we use the word undergo, it usually has sort of a negative connotation. So we use it when we're going through or experiencing, or if something is subjected to something unpleasant. It could be painful, like a surgery. We say someone's undergoing surgery, or something that's arduous, like an arduous task.
Yes. To undergo something이라는 것은 어떤 일을 겪다라는 뜻으로 많이 쓰고요. 우리 수술을 받다라고 할 때도 undergo surgery라고 하는데 여기서는 undergo a cleanup라고 했습니다. 뭐 청소라고 해석할 수도 있겠지만 좀 정확하게 말하면은 특별 유지 관리 공사가 시작이 되는 거고요. 자, 그 다음에 이제 up close, you'll be able to see some of the sculptures.
Yeah. So up close means at a very close range.
그렇죠. 아주 가까이에서라는 뜻으로 이제 up close라고 하고 있습니다. 그래서 지금 벌써 이제 주황색 그물 펜스가 쳐져 있대요. 그러니까 이제 로마에 계신 분들 아니면은 뭐 여행을 계획하시는 분들은 놀라지 마시고 네, 임시로 지금 이렇게 유지관리 공사가 진행되는 동안에 그렇게 하는데 이렇게 하는 이유가 카톨릭 그 희년이라고 합니다.
Yeah.
Year of the Jubilee.
Yeah.
요게 이제 다가오고 있어서 그래서
year. Yep.
깨끗하게 이렇게 보수를 하고 있다고 합니다. 자, 다시 한번 제가 읽어볼게요. Rome's iconic Trevi Fountain will undergo a 2-month cleanup, during which some visitors will have the rare opportunity to view the Baroque masterpiece up close from a suspended walkway, according to local authorities. Well, that's it for today's headlines with Karen.